In this problem, I need to find the inverse of this function if it exists. Well, the inverse will exist if my original function here is a one-to-one function. The simplest way to figure out if a function is one-to-one is to graph it and see if it passes the horizontal line test. So, looking at this graph here, my parent graph is y equals the cube root of x. And remember, what does the cube root graph look like? Remember, this is just a very, very rough sketch. It looks something like this. And what's that plus 2 going to do to it? The plus 2, it's going to shift it 2 units to the left. And what's the minus 4 going to do? That's going to shift it down 4. Now looking at the parent graph, is the parent graph one-to-one? If I draw a horizontal line, how many times is it going to hit it? Well, it's only going to cross it one time. Therefore, my parent graph is one-to-one. And shifting it 2 units to the left and 4 units down, it will still be this one-to-one function, just translated into a different place. Therefore, my original function here, f of x, is a one-to-one function. Therefore, its inverse exists. So now all we have to do is go find the inverse. So step 1 says replace f of x with y. So I'm going to have y equals the cube root of x plus 2, and then don't forget the minus 4 is outside the cube root. Step 2 is interchange x and y. Wherever you see a y, put an x. Wherever you see an x, put a y. So I get x equals the cube root of y plus 2 minus 4. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to solve for y. So I've got to get y all by itself. So that means I need to get the cube root by itself. Then I can undo that by cubing both sides. So let me write my equation over here. So the first thing I've got to do is get rid of that minus 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. That will isolate my cube root. So I get x plus 4 is the cube root of y plus 2. So now I've isolated my cube root. I can now cube both sides to undo that cube root. And what do I get on this side? What happens when you cube a cube root? They undo each other and you get y plus 2 equals x plus 4 all cubed. Now the last thing you've got to do is solve for y. So I'm going to have to subtract 2 from both sides. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to write it over here. Y equals x plus 4 cubed minus 2. And that is the inverse. And how do we write the inverse of the function f? It is f with the negative 1 exponent written on it. That means here comes the inverse of the function f. And what is it? X plus 4 cubed minus 2.